Can you hear me now, Kevin? I can't hear him. I'm called Captain Recovery. I'm a recovery coach here, and today we're going to be talking about the passage through recovery and action plan for preventing relapse. And it goes on to say, Part 1, an overview of the recovery process, learning where we're going. Chemical dependency is a disease that causes a person to lose control over use of alcohol or other drugs. It is an addiction that this loss of control causes physiological, so social and spiritual problems. That total person is affected. Sobriety means living a meaningful and comfortable life without the need of alcohol or other drugs. In recovery, we move from a destructive dependence on alcohol or other drugs toward full physical, psychological, social, and spiritual health. When we start using chemicals, we begin to heal the damage done to our bodies, minds, relationships, and spirit. Sobriety is more than just healing the damage. It is living a lifestyle that promotes continued physical, psychological, social, and spiritual health. Abstinence from mood-altering chemicals is the first requirement towards sobriety. We have to do this before we can learn what to do to get and stay healthy in all areas of our lives. Notice that I didn't say sobriety was abstinence from all alcohol and drugs. Abstinence from the beginning of sobriety. It is the ticket to get into the theater, not the movie we are going to see. We don't recover overnight. Recovery is a developmental process during which we go through a series of stages. The term developmental means to grow in stages or in steps. It is a gradual effort to learn new, progressively more complex skills. A developmental model of recovery means that we can grow from simple absence to a meaningful and comfortable sobriety. We confront new problems while absent and try to solve them. Sometimes we fail to, sometimes we succeed. Whatever the outcome, we learn from the experience and try again. I'm going to stop right there, and it says absence a lot in this. So I think that means a lot. And I didn't know I had to be absent from all drugs and alcohol to begin to recover. I still, wanted to use a little bit, or I just wanted to drink a little bit. And, some people can drink, social drink, and stuff like that, and they can do that. But for me, knowing yourself, right, that I can't use any type of substance. Where are you on that? The skills. The skills necessary for long-term sobriety are all indirected in finding meanings and purpose in life. Sobriety is a way of thinking, a way of acting, a way of relating to others, is a philosophy of living, and requires a daily effort of work and recovery program. The longer we stay sober, the more we need to know. To maintain a sense of meaning, purpose, and comfort, the things we did to stay comfortable at 30 days of sobriety may no longer work for us. At 60 days, it is as if the recovery process forces us to keep growing, learning, and changing.
You see what they said right there? It says the things we did to stay comfortable at 30 days of sobriety may no longer work for us at 60 days. So if you use that as an example, say you was going to a certain amount of meetings, and this happens in a lot of people's recovery processes. They stop doing what got them there, right? Instead of increasing it, like increasing more knowledge, learning more, taking trainings, building your recovery support network. You know what I'm saying? Like I got a lot of friends who have went back to using after we started the process 15 years ago. And they say, man, I don't know how you stayed focused on we went back. I said, because I kept wanting to learn. I kept saying, man, okay, let me find somebody that did what I'm after and listen. Like, let me find out what you do all day to make you not want to go. So when it talks about, it says again, the things we did to stay comfortable at 30 days of sobriety may no longer work for us at 60 days. It is as if the recovery processes forces us to keep doing what? Learning and changing. You see it? So it's saying that the farther you go, don't mean take your foot off the gas.
Yeah.
It means you it's like accelerate. You want to keep growing. Like, okay, you know what? Man, I'm going to school for this. I'm going to take up this type of. So you want to keep growing and keep, you know what I mean? Because a lot of times people like, I arrive.
Get comfortable.
I forget the word for it. There's a word for it.
It's like a recovery term.
Yes, I
I
hear it all the time.
And you get that place when you get in that.
I forget what it was.
But it's important. That's why in the beginning of that paragraph, it says the key is the longer we stay sober. You know what I'm saying? It's saying the longer you stay sober, the more you need to continue to grow, learn, and change. So it's saying this is a guarantee. Most people take their foot off the gas. Oh, I got 5 years, man. I ain't got to do all that. Oh, you better step it up.
Well, I like
that piece is waiting for you. To
when I go to a 12-step fellowship, and we talk about the basics. The basics always will apply, right? Simple things that in early recovery I still do to this day. But you always have to do more because, like I say, it's an ongoing process of recovery. You can't let it off because my addiction, my disease is with me 24/7. You know what I mean? So I need to keep on the recovery process on a daily basis and do more for my recovery some days than none. You know what I mean? But it's always a working process. Anybody want to read the next part?
The passage towards sobriety.
Down the bottom.
Passage towards sobriety is very clear. First, we stop using chemicals entirely, then we begin to associate with others who want sobriety. We listen to others who have spent more time in the 12-step program, and we practice what we learn in our day-to-day lives. We fail at some things and succeed at others, but we maintain a commitment to learn and grow no matter what happens. We keep the works for us and leave the rest. We talk honestly about what we tried and what happened. We learn from our experiences and share the knowledge with others.
All right. So this whole paragraph right here is so it's like when you see something that you have to really literally unpack this whole paragraph. But it says the passage towards sobriety is very clear. First, we stop using chemicals entirely. Everybody got that part. Because what happens in the recovery process, individuals believe, is the chemical aspect of it. But once you got that done, right, you're already past that stage. It says, then we begin to associate with others who want sobriety. That's your recovery support network. You can't hang out. My friends are still constantly using, right? I got friends who are still using. They still doing the same thing I did 15 years ago, right? I hang with them, but I have made a term that's called on my turf. What that means, I only hang with you where I'm comfortable.
Yep.
So you have to associate with others. The key phrase here is who want sobriety. So the individuals you put around you have to make sure, are they after the same goal as me? Like realistically, are you just trying to play both sides of the fence? Satisfied parole, satisfied the court, or are you really trying to change? And it says we listen to others who have spent more time. And the key I love about it is we practice what we learn in our day-to-day lives. Like you gotta actually, it's gonna take practice and repetition. You can learn by repetition of doing it. And this part right here, down the bottom where it says we talk honestly about what we tried and what happened. We learn from our experiences and share this new knowledge with others. So all of y'all, whoever have, you remember the last time you used and then you relapse, you have to get some type of lesson out of that. What happened? You know what I'm saying? Because if you was on your process of your recovery walk and then you fell off, you got to find out what actually happened. Because all of us can pinpoint where we messed up at that particular time, what I was doing, who I was with. You can actually think right now, like, I knew I shouldn't have did this. Like you can sit there like, man, I know I shouldn't have went with that. Or I shouldn't have went there. I wouldn't have been caught up in this situation.
Yeah, clear mind to that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but those are, you have to focus on what happened because whatever plan you had before and you failed, you have to modify something. Something has to change. You can't use the same exact action. Yeah, so everybody gonna have something, like he said, people, places, things. Everybody gotta figure out, what do I have to change? Come on, let's go.
Anybody want to read the next part?
I'll do it. The
All right.
progressive stages of recovery. The developmental model of recovery, I will call it the DMR for short, is based upon a series of beliefs. Recovery is a long-term process that is not easy.
Mm-hmm.
Recovery requires total abstinence from alcohol and other drugs, plus active efforts towards personal growth. They are underlying principles that govern the recovery process. There are underlying principles that govern the recovery process. The better we understand these principles, the easier it will be for us to recover. Understanding alone will not promote recovery. The new understanding must be put into action. So now we got a different mind frame. The actions that are necessary to produce full recovery can be clearly and accurately described as recovery tasks. It is normal and natural to periodically get stuck on the road to recovery. That is so true. You get stuck, you know. But the key, it is not whether you get stuck that determines success or failure, but it is how you cope with the stuck point that counts. Coping skills. Like the situations in our lives that we're going to face, which is unavoidable, finances, relationships, children. These are things that everybody in the world deal with at one point in time, right? Or maybe not children, but finances, relationships, some type of relationship, right? A lot of times when we're going through all these life struggles, we go back to what we felt comfortable doing, using.
Yep.
But really, we got to learn new coping skills because you're going to run into this stuck moment again. Now you got to figure out, man, what am I going to do when that situation arises again? Because I got to be honest with you, it's called life. It's going to show up.
Sure does.
It's going to show up. So now you got to figure out, okay, what's my go-to? What am I going to do at that point?
When it says stuck, right, I remember the word it was complacency.
Complacent. Yeah.
Can't be complacent in recovery. That's what happens
Yeah,
with a
that's
lot of
it.
people. You get stagnant and you think you got it going on. And I got this many years, I'm doing this, doing that. And that's when life shows up. Because my sponsor tells me, like, you know, you go through things more than I do. Like I went through things that he hasn't been through.
Yeah.
So and he's got 20-some years clean and sober. You know what I mean? And I got almost 5. So I'm helping him much as he helps me.
Yeah,
So yeah.
But that's a good word, complacent. Because a lot of times we get complacent. I arrive,
Yeah,
get that
I got the
I
job,
arrive
I got
moment.
the family.
Can't nobody tell me nothing. I know what I'm doing. And that part is dangerous. It's always a dangerous spot.
Very bad.
But the being stuck part is normal for that to happen. It's all about how you respond.
Mm-hmm.
It's how we respond to those situations.
It's true.
To learn about recovery, it is helpful to divide the process into stages. We will be learning about 6 different stages of recovery, which I will refer to as transition, stabilization, early recovery, middle recovery, late recovery, and maintenance is very important. This is so good.
Daily maintenance.
Yeah.
Mm.
Go ahead, somebody.
Actually, would you like to read some?
Sure. During the first recovery stage transition, we recognize we have problems with chemicals, but we think we can solve them by learning how to control our use. This stage ends when you recognize we are not capable of control, that we are powerless over alcohol or other drugs. And we need to abstain to regain control of our lives. We don't yet know why we are out of control or how to stay sober. We just know we cannot continue the way we have been. And in AA, this is called being sick and tired of being sick
You
and
be like,
tired.
oh, you be like, yo, I gotta change something.
During the second stage, stabilization, we now know we have serious problem with alcohol or drug use that we need to stop using completely, but we are unable to do so. During this time, we recuperate from the acute withdrawal, the stage of shakiness, confusion that we experience as our bodies detoxify. And for long-term or post-acute withdrawal, the period of time lasting from 6 to 18 months when you feel like we are in a mental fog. During this stage, we learn how to stay away from one drink or one dose of drugs, one day at a time.
I'll start reading some. And it says 6 to 18 months. That's a long time being in a fog. 16 to 18 months. That is terrible. You think about it, using drugs and alcohol, you can long-term effects. The third stage, early recovery, is a time of internal change. During early recovery, we learn how to become comfortable, abstinent. The physical compulsion to use chemicals is relieved, and we learn more about our addiction and how it has affected us. We also learn to overcome our feelings of shame, guilt, and remorse. We become capable of coping with our problems without chemical use. Early recovery ends when we are ready to begin practicing what we learned by straightening out other areas of our lives. During middle recovery, the fourth stage, we learn how to repair this past damage and put balance in our lives. We learn the full recovery means practicing these principles, the sober living skills we learned in early recovery. We all of our affairs in the real world of daily living. During middle recovery, we make it a priority to straighten out our relationships with people. We reevaluate our significant relationships, including our relationships with family and friends, and our careers. If we find we are unhappy in any of these areas, we make plans to do something about it. In AA terms, this means making amends. We acknowledge that we have done damage to other people. We become willing to make responsibility to do whatever possible to repair it. Mental recovery ends when we have a balanced and stable life.
Yeah, when you reevaluate significant relationships is important. Are they really worth it? I have sometimes some of them you want to have to mend them on relationships or have to deal with. Some of them you can actually just be like, it's over, or I can't. It's not even worth trying to repair it. Like it was a good situation, it could have been an employer or somebody you used to work for, you messed up the job, it could be relationships, it could be some family relationships. I don't want you to think all of them going to be repaired, because that's not possible. It is possible, but sometimes don't get stuck because the relationships that you're trying to repair didn't get repaired.
I like how you said that, like reevaluate, because I was talking with another recovering addict the other day, and like he's clean, right? And person he was with. Like you said, all relationships. So when
Yeah.
you're in active addiction and when you get clean and working on things and that relationship is not really working, it's
Yeah.
toxic, and because it works both ways, they have to do their process too. They have to
Yeah.
let go of whatever resentments. They have to work on themselves. And if you really want it to work, it's not one person can't just work on something and the other person can't, and it takes teamwork to do men's relationships and stuff like that. Some of them don't, some last, some don't, some are repaired, some ain't.
And also with the last sentence, it says middle recovery ends when we have a balance and a stable life. When you in the recovery journey, although recovery is a part of the process of the journey, you can't have all recovery and no life. Like you don't, it's a part of your life, but you can't,
Balance.
yeah, it has to be a balance, because if you just overload on one thing,
Yep.
because if you get sick or something and you can't do that, now you be all depressed. Like, man, I can't make my meetings. I can't, you gotta have a balanced life. When you got a balanced life, you have your personal time, things you might want to do, things you enjoy, along with your recovery process. So you gotta understand you need balance.
Yes. I'll read the last part down here. During the 5th stage late recovery, we focus on overcoming obstacles to healthy living that we may have learned as children. Before our addiction even developed, many chemically dependent people come from dysfunctional families because our parents may not have done a very good job at parenting. We may never have learned the skills necessary to be happy. Late recovery ends when we have accomplished 3 things. Can we read them 3 things?
First, we recognize the problems we have as adults that were caused by growing up in a dysfunctional family. Some stuff is just having been inherited.
Mm-hmm.
Second, we learn how to recover from unresolved pain that was caused by growing up in a dysfunctional family. And finally, we learn how to solve current problems in spite of the obstacles caused by how we were raised. So even though you might have been raised in a difficult situation, majority of families are dysfunctional, but everybody has a different definition of dysfunction.
Mhm.
So no matter how you are raised, in spite of those obstacles, you still have to learn how to solve certain problems. You know what I mean? How we were raised, I remember something happened when my wife and I, we got put in a situation. To her, it was the worst situation she could experience. And to me, I was like, it's no big deal. We got this, right? So I remember her calling my mom or talking to my mom on the phone, and she was explaining to my mom, we in this type of situation, house situation, this, that, and third. And my mom said this to, knowing how I was raised, said this to my wife. I bet you my son ain't worried. And she said, how you know? She said, because I know how we was raised and we knew how to function. We don't have the food. This is what we have. We're going to function, right? So when we got in this situation, my wife was like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, she was there. Good word. So, it blew my mind because I told my wife, "Baby, it's all right, be cool. We'll figure it out, And when she called and talked to my mom, she said it. She said, "I bet you he's not worried," and that was accurate because it was an obstacle, but I knew how to solve the problem because I was in a difficult situation.
Solution based.
Hi, can I join the group?
Yes.
Okay.
So when it says right here, we learn how to solve current problems in spite of the obstacles caused by how we were raised. You know what I mean? So how we were raised, even if, again, dysfunction to me, everybody has a different definition. I believe all families have some type of dysfunction, right?
For sure.
So no matter how you were raised, don't make that a crutch. You can still be able to solve the problem. Your current, it says current, right? Solve current problems. So when it talks about current problems you have now, don't try to be like, well, I was raised this way. No, use what you was raised. How can you adapt to that situation and you can solve it?
I like when we go back to the balance part, it's tough in recovery to like balance stuff, right? And my sponsor tells me like it's really because sometimes things suffer. Like we're trying to, for me, I try to spread everything out, like even it out, recovery, family, relationships. I try to spread my time all the way around. I don't leave something unattended for too long. You know, I don't try to like abandon one certain area of my life. I try to attend to all of it. And it goes to the sixth and final stage is maintenance. During maintenance, we recognize we have a need for continued growth and development as people. We recognize that we can never safely use alcohol or other drugs. We must practice a daily recovery program to keep addictive thinking from returning. We live in a way that allows us to enjoy the journey of life.
Remember one time we was talking out there and I was like, yo, you gotta enjoy it. Like it's a journey. Like we didn't just arrive at this situation. We literally went to steps to destroying our life. So now in the recovery process, we gotta learn to enjoy the journey because it's not just gonna be like, yeah, it's not gonna be you.
We
So
want it
so
now.
gratification.
Yeah, we want it now.
So when we learn to, me personally, when I started to journey, I started to enjoy it. Like the new me, I said, oh, I really like this guy, right? So I started to enjoy that, and I didn't want anything. I still didn't like today. I don't want anything to rob that joy I feel. Like I don't want to give up that joy. Like, you're gonna have to fight it. I'm not giving it up because but you have to fall in love with that journey. It's not just going to be something that we go through over. But also, again, if y'all see, we keep reading the same word. Despite the maintenance, we recognize we have need for continued growth and development. There's never getting, if you do come to your mind about you arrive. Don't never get to the place where most of my friends who relapse, they always be like, man, I thought I had it. And that's where you went wrong. You thought you didn't need to keep doing what you did when you started.
That's a lot of story.
Yep.
Yeah.
A lot of stories go the same kind of
Same
way.
thing. You know, I got it. Yeah. What's the word again?
Complacency.
There you go. I always think good work.
Yeah.
But when that, it might enter our minds or thought, right? It's not, that's not the bad part.
Yeah.
What you do when that thought comes, you arrive, nope, I'm going to a meeting, I'm going to church, I'm going to do something.
Yeah.
I already know that, but I'll leave the house, I got to go. Why?
But sometimes you don't even know you're in that mode. Like it's a lot of things, but complacency, you don't even know it until you're out of it. Sometimes when you're in that moment, you don't even know you're there. And that's a very dangerous place.
Yeah,
Can I
very.
share?
Yeah.
I'm Melissa.
Hey,
I don't know if you identify. Thanks for letting me come into the meeting late. So maintenance, and one thing I love about Mike is a joyful spirit that endures year after year, and that's because you keep doing what's necessary to fill your tank, where I struggle with that. And the nature of the world, I'm upstairs, I'm with paper a lot of the time, all day. And but I need people.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? So I came down here to get a snack, but I heard, oh, there's people here.
Yeah.
Because this is going to fill my spirit. Because this is why we do all this work, so that people can come.
Yeah.
You know, and we have somebody virtual too, because for me, as a person in long-term recovery, I've never cured it, but it's in remission. But I have to do continual work to continually renew. Because excitement in the beginning, like, oh, a new way of life, this is great. Excitement will only take me so far. Because when you get into the pattern and the doldrums of the daily life of like paying bills and doing this and like being a responsible adult, I forget where I came from. And then gratitude goes out the window. And then that's so like the complacency for me, I know I'm complacent when not only when I stop doing what I'm supposed to do, but when I'm like ungrateful, I'm miserable, I'm grumpy, I'm mean, I'm looking at life like the glass is half empty. And I'm like, wait a minute, remember where you came from? If I stop and just think of my own story, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. But I forget that sometimes. So being with other people, sharing, and staying in touch with what's necessary to keep moving forward. And another thing I noticed, when I stop doing what I need to do, I hate everybody else that's doing it. Everybody else that's thriving in their recovery and like they're all optimistic and happy.
Your
I'm
spiritual
like,
conditions not too. You stop doing this, you stop doing that, your spirit.
And they not doing
that's
nothing
right.
wrong.
They make me sick. I'm just being honest.
That's
Because
good.
it grows in the dark and dies in the light of the future. I gotta
Sure
tell
does.
myself.
Yeah.
My thinking is not always right. night.
Me
Yes, thank you.
either.
Thanks for letting me
Amen.
share.
Thanks for sharing.
I think the last things, we talk a lot about addiction, but it don't have to always be about addiction.
That's right.
Because just the other day, I told myself, like, because I'm in college right now, but I was kind of rushing it, like, damn, I can't wait for this shit to be over. But then I sat down, I thought, well, I might as well enjoy the journey of going to school because
Yeah.
it is, it's a little tough sometimes, but it's a process.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of like rushing the process and being like, man, I can't wait to get the fuck out of here,
Mm-hmm.
might as well just enjoy the time that you got then, because you're only gonna have so many graduations, you're only gonna be able to get, college don't last forever, and
Sure.
then certain things you get don't last forever. So instead of rushing it, you might as well enjoy it, get what you can get out of it, make it the best of, instead of saying, damn, I can't wait to just be done. So
Life's too short. Life's too. Listen, the months and days go by quick.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, no, it does. We only have one life. We gotta enjoy it. You know what I mean? The recovery process, gives us that ability to enjoy it.
All right, where we at?
We're at recovery stage, down all the way down the bottom.
We just read all those, right?
Did we?
Transition, stabilization. Yeah, it's just giving you a major thing from.
Okay.
If we done.
Yeah, many chemical dependent
Oh, no.
people. You see where I'm at?
Yeah.
Many chemical dependent people ask, what are some of the things I might do that will cause a relapse? The answer is simple. You don't have to do anything. Stop using alcohol and other drugs, but continue to live your life the way you always have. Your disease will do the rest. It will trigger a series of automatic and habitual reactions to life's problems. Life's problems. Remember, I was talking about bills.
Life terms.
It's life. It's his life. Life's problems that will create so much pain and discomfort that a return to chemical use will seem like a positive option. Remember, we were just talking about that. Like when we going through life, this is stuff that everybody face, but we go to. Let me go to my comfort zone, or go back to where I was comfortable. So a lot of times we got to find that the new coping skills that we was talking about earlier. Recovery means change. To change, we must have goals. To reach our goals, it helps to have an action plan or step-by-step guide showing us what to do and how to do it. This book is designed to be such a guide. Each of the following chapters is a detailed description of one of the recovery stages. Don't feel overwhelmed as you read them. Remember, recovery is a process of growth that takes time. Going from stabilization to maintenance may require 3 to 15 years, depending upon how sick you were when you started to recover. No, that's true. I'm telling you, it's so true that I mean, literally every day, the same work you put in, you got to put in. Mute them.
Where's that at?
Mute the microphone where he is.
Is it
Right next to that, right there.
And I think it's not him. It's something. I don't know what it is. I hear it.
Craig,
Oh, it's Craig.
go ahead. Y'all finish reading. I got it. I got it.
I'm not sure.
going from stabilization to maintenance may require 3 to 15 years, depending upon how sick you were, started to cover how hard consistency you work at your recovery plans and the type of help you to receive from others. This book doesn't contain a magic formula. It simply describes many things that people who have successfully recovered from chemical dependency have done. By understanding what others have done, it becomes possible to follow the advice often heard at AA meetings. If you want what we got, do what we did. Please accept the description and the spirit that they are offered. It is my intent to share the courage, strength, and hope of hundreds of recovering alcoholics.
Very good. Yeah, I just text my friend that he was venting in the same way, but he was trying to make excuse. And he kept saying, "Man, nah, Mike, Mick, I want what you got." And I text him back, "If you want what I got,
Work for
do what I did." He said, "That's simple." Absolutely.
It's pretty hard. It says and from long-term post-acute withdrawal, the period of time lasting from 6 to 18 months.
Yeah.
That's a
Post-acute
long
withdrawal, yeah.
time. Like, that's serious.
It's a balance. Like I'm still dealing. Like I'm like trying to figure out if I have to depression right now. I'm just like really down. I was down and out, but went to church and I like came out of it. But you know, it's a lot. Just trying to live sober, and you can't do nothing. So you gotta live in that moment of your feelings, you know. So it's a lot.
It's always good to use the phone.
Yo, but that's
That got me
good.
through a lot.
But that process of that change is I always say is you versus you, right?
Yeah.
Because the old you and the new you know. So you going through. Just think. One of my mentors, he always said, "Man, you expecting to have it all easy when I took your best friend from you."
Mhm.
I said, "What?" He said, "Jones was your best friend."
Yeah, for
So,
real.
so I take your best friend from you,
Yeah.
and you think you gonna have a party? I said, yeah. He said, no, you're gonna fight to keep your best friend. And so the change process is one of the questions I remember on the CADC test. I'll never forget it because it says when a person is experiencing those types of situations, make sure you let them know that it's normal.
Mhm.
It's normalize it, like, yo, you don't panic.
Mhm.
It's a normal feeling from going through that transformation.
That helps a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's gonna be all right.
Mhm.
Can I
And it's
add
like-
to that?
Yes.
No, it's like a grievance. It's crazy to say, but like a grieving process from drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
Listen,
Wait.
we've been there through years and years, and
Yeah.
that's our best friend, right? So it's like, who am I? What am I gonna do now? You know what I mean? It's definitely a grieving process. Yeah, I'm sorry, go.
To me, the way I believe in it's a spiritual illness, right? So like when I was in my active addiction, well, you know, like they say, I was searching for something different. I thought I found it in drugs, right? Because, and then looking for the ultimate experience, you know, and everything by itself wasn't enough. I had to find a way to kick it up a notch. Like back in the day when using was fun, I can't just go to the movies. We got to smoke weed before we go to the movies.
Mhm.
Can't just go out to eat. You got to smoke for it because everything's going to taste better. It's going to be funnier. You know what I mean? All this stuff is like searching for something outside of myself to fix what's inside. And that's what they call alcohol spirits, because alcohol is a spirit, you know. And when we put the drugs and alcohol, and to me, like, this is just the way I believe, is like putting drugs into my body literally put me under a spell. It put me under a trance where I went, my feet took me where my heart didn't want to go, and I did a whole bunch of stuff that I would never do.
Yeah, that's true.
And I thank God that I'm in my right mind, but I can relate because it's a spirit. So it's like sometimes after we stop using the drugs and alcohol, we can feel like we have a hole in the gut because we feel the pain of living so deep. You know what I mean? So the spiritual part of it, though, is so the solution is spiritual, and this is spiritual, connecting with other people and sharing where, you know, from the heart, you know, really what's going on with me, really what's going on with you, and get into the exact nature. And that's how we get better. And you're right, sometimes we just got to sit with those feelings, man. It's so uncomfortable. But, you know, they also say, pour me a drink. I have to watch that I don't let myself go too far or stay too long on that pity pot, because I could still go there, and I really have so many things to be grateful for, and I am grateful. But you know, people that are in long-term recovery, we need help too, man. Don't think that we've arrived, because I haven't. I need help, because you know, and I love to watch people that are new in recovery because they're so enthusiastic and stuff like that. And you're in long-term recovery. You're enthusiastic. You put in the work. I know what I got to do. I got to put in the work, and it's not just about talking about it. It's about doing it.
Just enjoying it, and like it's just enjoying the journey. It's tough because we see people we lose for overdose and everything, and just still to muster up the motivation to be like, I'm gonna help the next person. You know, I'm gonna try at least, you know, do my best for the population that I'm able to work with, which is a dream come true, actually. Like, it's just
We're special people, man.
yeah. Like, are you kidding me? I actually worked with them to go through that. Like, yeah, it's awesome. Recognizing our teachable moments. There was once a student who couldn't understand the solution to a complex puzzle. He went to a wise old man for instructions, and after the wise old man made several attempts to explain the puzzle, the student still couldn't grasp the principle. His teacher comforted him by saying, we each have our own teachable moments. When we are ready to understand something, the understanding comes. If you cannot solve the problem now, turn your attention to a different and easier problem that will prepare you to solve the more complex problem.
Mm.
That is good.
That gives me good fun.
Find some little things that you can solve and fix the other one. I hope this book will lead you to your teachable moments. It is meant to help you determine where you are in your recovery process and to help you set more realistic goals for further growth. We will receive each stage of the DMR. We will be looking at the steps of AA that correspond to the stage. We'll also be looking at a series of recovery tasks that chemical-dependent counselors develop to support our AA program. It's important to remember that each task is completed on two levels. The first is on the level of experience, which we all have, on which we have experienced and felt the real need for the task. The second is on the level of conscious understanding. When we just constantly, if we slow it down and just, I think about the room in my house now, and Melissa and them got me on flowers and all this stuff. I'm taking flowers home. So I got a room in my house. It's no clocks, no phones. It's nothing but pictures and flowers. And me and my wife, we sit in there, whoever's in there, it doesn't matter. You don't ask what's wrong. You know? Don't talk. Just chill. Just chill.
Serenity spot.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's so like, oh man, yeah. So you has like constant understanding about what's going on in your day. You know, what can you change? How can you be better? You get
Reflecting.
Reflecting room.
Huh?
Reflecting room.
Of which we are able to describe and explain to others what these steps or tasks are all about. At first, we may be unable to explain what we are experiencing. We lack the words or the language of sobriety to fully understand what has happened. But because people who are more knowledgeable in recovery than we are can guide us, we follow directions and things begin to make sense. And that's like the recovery thing. There's somebody that always went before you. One of my things that I've noticed why I kept missing it when I kept trying recovery is because the person who went before me, I wasn't truly listening to them. They was telling me what to do, but I just kept saying, I got it.
I know.
And, yeah, I know. And I kept starting over. And then the same guy I come back to, he would say this
I
to me.
heard you talking about
He-
that one day.
he said-
Same thing.
He said, Mike, you know I'm gonna teach you the same thing I told you last year, right? And I was like, you ain't got nothing. He said, I ain't got nothing new. I'm gonna teach you the exact. He said, you need to apply what I'm teaching you.
My daughter said it all the time. She said, I know. I said, then do it.
I know it's a dangerous word, my sponsor. It's a dangerous word.
But this is a good book, you know. It's a passage through recovery by Terence, and we're gonna go through like series of different stages. It has helped me tremendously,
Yeah, I like it.
and I go back to it over and over and over again.
Terence Gorski's master.
Yeah. So we want to say thank you, everybody.
Thank you guys for showing up, and thank you, Kevin was on there, Craig.
Yeah,
thank you for
thanks
showing
everybody
up,
for tuning in.
and I'll see you next time.
Good group, everyone.
All right.
Thank you, brother.